So my name is Akuda. Welcome all the divine souls that are watching. This is the DNA code, activating your multidimensional power and quantum leaping into your divine destiny for personal and global change. Today I am co-creating with Debra, and would you like to say your full name to presence yourself?
Sure, Debra Lupien.
Thank you. And we're going to be co-creating today and connecting with Debra about her interviews about Akashic Records and DNA and the work that she's doing in the world. I would love to just tell a little bit about Debra. She is an author, a motivational speaker, an Akashic Records expert, and she just recently released a book, The Akasha Unleashed, the missing manual for you. And would you like to tell me about yourself and tell everybody about yourself and the work that you're doing right now?
Sure. I was one of those people that grew up with a really crappy self-esteem. I mean, so bad it was like lying on the floor and people walking over you. So my journey has been going from that place of such a low self-esteem to coming into my soul purpose, which I didn't discover until my 50s when I finally accidentally stumbled upon the Akashic Records. And then it was like, oh, the heavens opened up, life changed. And ever since then, I've been on fire to share this with people, which is why I wrote the book, because, you know, we are all these divine, beautiful, magnificent, resplendent beings, and we need to know that. And that is the message that keeps coming to me over and over from not just my guides, but from everybody's guides. So a big part of my work is helping people with that self-esteem issue. And I was really surprised to find out how many men have the same issue here. I thought it was just women, but it's been an eye-opener to find out just how many people still have these issues. So that's kind of a nutshell.
Yeah. And you, the Akasha Unleashed. So tell me what your views of Akashic Record reading are. I know that many people are doing Akashic Record reading. I myself do Akashic Record reading, and I would just like to hear how that really unfolds for you.
Sure. Well, I started out just doing channeled readings. I used Linda Howe's book and some other training that I had gotten, and just decided, heck, I'm going to try it and see what happens. And things just started coming through. And for me, they come through like movies and lots of metaphors. I don't know if everybody else gets it the same. I suspect there's probably differences. And then I also studied soul realignment, which is a specific way of accessing the records where we go in and we do research, looking for information about the soul, starting with your divine gift, because your divine gift is what informs upon your soul purpose. So that is huge, and that's where we start. And then we look for your tribe. We check your gender. We look for your soul specialization. I mean, there's a laundry list of things we go in looking for. And then once we have the picture of your soul blueprint, how you're wired, then we go into the karmic issues that are currently impacting you so that we can identify them, get the lessons that were to be learned, and then clear it all away so that you can start fresh with new eyes, because now you have met your soul and you understand how you can be more effective and more empowered in the world.
Yes, I really, after I did my own Akashic Record reading and started to align myself to my soul blueprint, didn't understand the chakras and that were holding my gifts, and I thought my gifts were somewhere else. And until I really aligned with my own personal power centers of how I was created to hold my mission, is really where vitality and abundance and everything really just started to fall into place. And you know, the clearing of the Akashic Record really helped make the space also for the work that I do with DNA and then the DNA activations. And, you know, these clearings are so important to presence ourselves here on this planet and to do the work that we're doing. And one thing that I would really love to say about you, Debra, is you are in your mission. You feel it. There is a vitality to you that exactly what I think about when a person is living their divine destiny, like the vitality that comes through, I completely see it in you. And it is so beautiful. You are so generous, and it's just so beautiful to watch. So into that, you know, discovering our soul's purpose and aligning the soul's purpose for today, what is your process about that?
Well, once I look up the gift for somebody, then I explain to them the attributes of that gift. And I'll use myself as an example because I'm an expert at that. So when I learned, I actually have a primary and a secondary. Some people just have the primary, which is way easier because when you're trying to get into alignment with your gift, if you have one, it's easier than trying to balance two. So I have wisdom and power. What I understood about that is that all of my life, I've had this thing where I'm very independent. I don't like to work for other people because I want to do things my way. And I used to think that was a deficit, that was a shortcoming. And it turns out, no, divine power is wired to be very independent. They're natural entrepreneurs. They go out and they inspire people and they're leaders. So it's like, oh, wow, here I was criticizing myself for years, thinking there was something wrong with me. And in fact, it was just because I had a misperception about my purpose. And wisdom, likewise. Wisdom, we are somewhat obsessed about researching and learning, and then we have to share what we've learned. So I sometimes thought, gosh, I must be OCD because I'm just out there researching constantly. It's like an obsession. But then I learned that's how wisdom is wired. We are supposed to gather all this information and then share it with other people. So in helping people to be empowered and to learn, that's what feeds my soul. So that's the energetic feedback loop that I teach people about. When you're doing your purpose, and for me, as I said, that's power and wisdom, and you share that with another person, they internalize what you've said, and then they give you feedback. They validate what you have shared with them. And that's where this energetic feedback loop between people happens. And that's where the magic is, which is what we're all seeking. So once you know how you're wired, then you can go out and purposefully do those things that creates the energetic feedback loop that feeds your soul. And it's just all bliss from there.
And you are a true example of that.
And
So with the energetic feedback loop, I love that theory because, you know, we are co-creating, and we're co-creating with the light inside of ourselves. We're co-creating with our soul. And I truly believe, you know, our multidimensional destiny is in our DNA, and we're co-creating in every moment. So I just love the feedback loop. And so would you tell me a little bit more about your guides leading you and guides coming through in your sessions for Akashic record reading, and how that also pertains to the feedback loop of like the co-creation with other people?
sure. Well, it's been an evolution because you probably know from your own work, when you first start tapping into this ability, you get little dribs and drabs, and then you start getting more, and it kind of opens up. And I just had another bump in my evolution recently where I'm finding that things will just come through without my even attempting to do it. It's just, I'll be talking to somebody and just zip, I get something. And of course, when you get it, you're supposed to share it because otherwise you wouldn't have gotten it at that moment. And they'll validate it for me. So that's been happening. When I actually purposefully travel to the Akashic Records, whether myself or someone else, I do that through a meditative process. So I'll ground myself, and then I will ask for entrance to the records very respectfully, and almost always get in. Once in a while, there's a door that will kind of be sticky, and I'll say to the person, well, were you a little hesitant maybe about having this reading? And it's always, yeah, and that's why the door was sticky. So I get in there, and sometimes I will see guides and they'll interact with me. Sometimes they come in the form of angels. Sometimes they come in the form of animals, could be just an individual. They come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes I had one that came as a dwarf, and then during the reading, she morphed into a giant. And when the reading was done, I was able to see why that symbology was there. It all made sense. In the moment, you're just kind of going with it because you don't know where the story is going. But they're writing this amazing story for you. And then they tie it all up with a bow, this beautiful message at the end. So each time I do it, it's almost like it's the first time, because it's such a marvel at the beauty and the complexity and the care that they take to create this for us. So when I do it for myself, I've got my fingers on the keyboard and I'm typing like crazy because it comes through rather quickly. Although if it comes too fast, they are so cool. I can just say, hey, gang, can you slow it down for a moment? And they will, and then it'll pick right back up again. If I'm doing it live with someone, we'll be taping it because it's coming through pretty rapidly. And if they have a question, the same as my asking to pause, I can say, okay, let's pause and ask your question, and then we'll get right back into it. So that's kind of how it works. And I get music, I get images. Sometimes it's Disney themes. You just never know what it's going to be. One time I got Jungle Book for this guy, and we were getting a message from the python, which was fascinating because, you know, snakes are all about transformation. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just runs the gamut of experiences. But what will happen is the symbology that comes through the images usually have some special resonance to that person. And if they don't, then we have to go Google to find out what is that deeper message, because it is always there and layered, of course, as you probably have discovered yourself.
Yes, yes. And it's so interesting because, you know, speaking of snakes, my primary medicine has always been snakes my whole life. And, you know, Kundalini, transformation, and DNA. And it's so interesting because my Akashic record reading takes me inside somebody's body, inside their DNA. And I start seeing the stories, and, you know, the soul stories, the karmic stories, their lineage patterns, all through the DNA. So it's so interesting to hear how our true essence and gifts really are being, you know, used, and from our guides and from, you know, our deepest and highest self. You know, we get these messages that pertain to us, and I love that. So let's talk about trauma and how you view trauma inside a person's body and their stories. And then what is your process for clearing trauma?
You just froze there for a moment, so I hope it all comes through on the tape. So let me tell you a story. That's probably the easiest way to illustrate it. Sure. A young woman came to me, and she asked if I could help her because she had been raped. And I hadn't done that with anybody before, but I just knew that, yes, there was an answer for her in her records. And so I said, let's just go and see what your guides have to share with you. So we went in, and they showed me a story of her at the same age that she was now in a previous lifetime, where, of course, it was as many years ago, and times were very different, and women were very disempowered. So she was a young woman. She was living at home with her family. One night she was out in the evening, and she was walking down the street, and she was attacked by this man who came running out of an alley. He drug her into the alley, and he viciously raped her. So she finally got home, and she was disheveled, and she had some physical injuries, and, you know, psychic injuries were massive. And The family did not support her. They blamed her. So it was such a devastation that she essentially locked herself away in her room, and she stayed there for about 2 weeks. And at that point, she just knew there was nothing left for her in that life. So she ended that lifetime. And there was no judgment about that. It was her soul's choice, and probably the best choice, because there were no support systems back then. So what we got from all of that was that this was some unresolved karma, soul DNA that was in her record that needed to be addressed. And she, and this lifetime, was much more empowered. So she was better able to process and deal with it. Now that she understood the story, without even doing a clearing, I could see her physically shifting in front of me. It was like, okay, now I understand where this came from, and I can let go of the blame and the guilt. And in fact, through that, she also processed her feelings about this rapist, because it was a friend and she was having a lot of conflict. How do I deal with this? And it allowed her to be more empowered and say, okay, this person is out of my life, where before she wasn't even sure about that. So the whole thing came together, and I asked her guides to give us something to help her. And so they channeled to me a specific healing that we went through, an energetic process, and I don't remember the details now, and it was special for her, and a little meditation. So she took that and worked with it for about a week, and then we came together again the following week, and it was already processed. Now it was time to look forward. Where are we going to go from here? Having learned that lesson, it's done, moving on. And it was really phenomenal to witness, because how quickly she was able to heal physically and psychically and move on from that to get back on her journey and to be that strong, empowered woman that she intended for this lifetime. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Especially, I know how important the power of choice is in this lifetime. And so making clear, powerful choices in the moment is, you know, how in this lifetime we clear those karmic patterns. And would you like to share a little bit about the power of choice?
Sure. Well, that is huge. And the guides are constantly talking about that. You know, if you don't like what's going on in your life right now, make a new choice, because you created the reality you're living through your choices. So there are some soul gifts, and power is one of them, where we have a lot of choices just because of the way we're wired and the way we accumulate experiences in our life. So it becomes a little harder. So for people with power, if they get stuck and they don't make a choice, it's like they are spinning their wheels in the muck and they're just sinking deeper and deeper. When that happens, the energy just kind of shuts down. Life goes really crappy in a hurry, and the manifestations grind to a halt. So for those people, and for other groups as well, the important thing there is to look around, pick something. Doesn't matter so much what it is. What it matters is that you pick something and you get your behind moving, because that gets the energy moving, and then your guides are able to bring more breadcrumbs into your awareness so that you will see the choices that were there that you were just blind to before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful to watch a person heal from deep trauma like a rape, and then in this time claim their power and make those choices in new relationships, and then you watch the healing and the vitality happen, and you know this abundance start coming into their life. And would you like to talk about how financial abundance, soul abundance, source abundance really starts happening when we align with our divine blueprint?
Sure. Well, what happens is when we're out of alignment, then we're not seeing all the opportunities that our guides are bringing to us. Life gets harder, and our energy can get stagnant when we're not moving properly. So the real huge gift of learning how you're wired is that now you can make choices from that perspective of, oh, this is how it works best for me. So let's say your gift was divine creation. So for creation, they're all about getting out there and doing physical things. So when they find themselves stuck, all they have to do is sweep the floor, go take a walk, just get that energy moving, get that physical thing happening. And then their guides will bring things into their awareness that they will now be able to recognize so that they can make the choice, which opens them up for the abundance, because we're all wired for abundance. Some of us actually are a little more wired for manifestations than others, which is kind of cool. But we've all got it. And so it's just coming into that alignment. There's one group where for them, life is like walking on a balance beam. They're very sensitive souls. And I teach them this because it's a great visual that they can keep in mind. So here you are, you're walking on that balance beam. When you get out of alignment because you're not making choices or you're making the wrong ones, it's like you're listing to one side or the other. And when that happens, you're going to fall off. So when you feel yourself getting out of alignment, things are harder than they should be, and you notice it. The moment you notice it, start taking action to get back into alignment. And ask. Our guides always say, you don't ask enough. We're here, we're twiddling our thumbs, waiting for you to come and ask. Please, ask us. We'll help you. And if you miss it the first time, they'll keep bringing it around until you get it. So that abundance is there for everybody. It's just coming into alignment with your purpose, which gives you more clarity so that you do see the opportunities and then get moving when they show up in your life.
Yes. This, so ties into the multidimensional aspect that I really would love people to start seeing, is that we have access to our divine soul blueprint, our soul's gift, our soul stories, our karmic stories, our true source, our abundance, the layers of our consciousness all within this body, and we can live it all the time when we're communicating with it, when we're communicating with our body, when we're communicating to our higher self and our guides. And it's, when somebody is truly moving in that whole organic process, you feel the power, you feel everything, you feel them. Every time they speak, you feel the power of their words, their manifestations, and it's truly beautiful to witness and watch. So earlier today, you sent me an email about how your guides were communicating to you about DNA. And would you like to share about that? I would love to dive into that with you.
Sure. Well, it's actually new information to me, so I'm still processing it, but I'll give you the nutshell that I understand at this point. Because in my work, I don't necessarily focus on DNA as you do, because that hasn't been such a big issue. So when you asked me to talk to you about DNA, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe it's semantics. Maybe what I do would be DNA to you. And so I looked around, and yeah, the soul blueprint, a lot of people are referring to as DNA. That was interesting. But I went in and I asked them, what can you tell me about this whole DNA connection with the Akashic Records? And so I got this metaphor that it's like a hard drive. Most of us understand how hard drives work, right? They have sectors that get written on. And we can overwrite sectors and replace what's there. We can add new things. We can delete things, but they do leave a resonance when we delete them, unless we copy over top of them. So here we are. And here's a story that'll tie into this. The other day I talked to somebody who has this repeating pattern showing up where these awful things, this victimization, lifetime to lifetime, showed up. And they explained to me that what was happening is that when this repeating pattern is there, it goes back to something that happened that was extremely emotionally traumatic, because that leaves a big imprint in your records, that trauma. And that's what needs to be resolved so that you can move on. But you don't want to remove the lesson. You want to go in with surgical precision and just get the trauma, but leave the lesson. So what happens is, through our process, when we help people first to understand the story and to get the lesson, and then we do the clearing, what they are actually doing energetically in their records is they're going in with surgical precision. They're editing that document like it was a Word document, right? And they're taking out the little piece of trauma, and then they're saving that document. So the lesson is there, but the trauma is gone. And that actually is editing the DNA of their record. So it's like, oh, that is really cool. And of course, they gave me the metaphor of hard drive because I'm a techie person and I can relate to that. Somebody else might have gotten a whole different metaphor, but the lesson is still the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me because that is where I'm working. And like I said, I go in and I see the trauma inside the DNA, right? We release the trauma, and then after we're releasing, it's almost like a reprogramming of the DNA. And I go in with lights and sacred geometry and actually start rebuilding the DNA and lighting up the DNA so that all the strands are communicating with each other. And then when you really get into working with the single strands, they show you that there are actually like vortexes and portals within the DNA, and that the more strands that a person has activated, the more, again, your stories are cleared, and the more you're in alignment with your soul blueprint and the vital force energy that you have access to, and the creation that you have access to. So we're doing the similar work, the same work. It's just, our guides, because I'm a DNA person and you're a tech person, show you in different ways.
Yeah.
And the gift of like these communications, with people, and, we get to explore each other's processes, and it's so beautiful. Like you really understand the magnificence of who we are when we're in such deep conversations with each other. And
Yes, I love it.
it's such truly a gift to be able to express my deepest self with another person's deepest self, and we're saying the same things, and now I have a new perspective. So I'm going to walk away from this interview, and my guides might start showing me like techie stuff,
Mhm.
because and now I have a reference point of what it means. And again, this is the feedback loop that we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Tying it right into the feedback loop. And it's so beautiful. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because that was the point, I think that really wanted to come through, was the feedback loop of co-creation,
Yes.
and the rewriting of the stories with DNA. I feel like that's really what wanted to come through today. And such a pleasure. Is there any other part of your work that feels important that you would like to express before we end our co-creation with each other today?
Sure. What comes through to me as you're talking is that you are just a natural healer, and you probably have been through many lifetimes, but you also have that scientific side of yourself. And so that's why your gift expresses itself the way that it does, because it's perfect for you. And this is the cool thing about understanding your gift, because we each approach things in different ways, and yet it's perfect and we get the results. But when we do it in the way that we're aligned with, that's when we get the most powerful results, which is why for both of us, I think it's so important to get the word out, to let people know this is something available to you. You can meet your soul, you can understand about how you're wired, and then use that to create that amazing life. And it's more important now than ever, because we're going through this big awakening, this shift of the earth, and people need to catch up or they're going to get left behind, and it's going to get harder for them.
Yeah. One of the reasons for this summit is that I have been shown the crystalline grid on the planet. That's part of what comes through for me, is the crystalline grid. And the more that we communicate and connect with each other and co-create with each other, we are actually making the crystalline more powerful, and that we will be speeding up the process through our co-creations with other people.
Yeah.
And we are the light in the fabric of the matrix, and that is part of our soul's purpose, is to co-create and to make the matrix stronger, the crystalline grid stronger, so that we are moving towards our next creation and evolution of ourself. And I love you so much. You have been so generous with your time, the resources that you have. And would you like to talk about the free gift that you would like to give away before we end?
Sure. I have this really special meditation that was given to me a few years ago. And it's one of these beautiful visualization meditations where this lotus, this energetic lotus, has these light beings coming out of it, and they are bringing healing energy. They are doing a well-being attunement. So I recorded that, and I would love to share that with your listeners because it's such a powerful meditation. And even people who say, I can't meditate, I get too distracted, this was made for them because the visualization keeps them focused so that they can get the full benefit of it. And then when they get to the end of it, now they're in this wonderful place of well-being where if they want to connect with their guides, they can just stay there and ask and allow whatever to come through. So it's really a beautiful process, and I'm delighted to share it with them.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I look forward to doing that process myself. So I would just like to, again, say thank you so much. And may all of everybody who's watching find blessings in this communication and this co-creation with each other. And thank you so much for joining me, Debra. I truly value the work that you're doing in the world. And I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a delight to be with you.
And would you like to, on the last note, plug your book a little bit, because it's an important book. So I would love for you to just kind of like, get it in there.
Okay.
It's part of your life's work, and I know I'm writing a book myself, and I know the work that it goes into writing a book. So, please feel free to use this time to.
Sure. Thank you. It was divinely inspired because all of this information was coming through, and knowing myself that I was such an uninitiated person, I didn't know this even existed until, I accidentally almost ran into it. So it's called Akasha Unleashed because that's what it's about for me. It's unleashing the power of the Akasha. And the missing manual to you, because I truly believe that the Akashic records are the missing manual to all of us. It's our birthright. We should have always had it. We weren't ready for it before, but now our energy has shifted so that we can step up and access that information. Unlike Edgar Cayce, who had to go into a trance to get the information, we can just get there with a thought. So that's what it's all about, sharing with people that power and how it's readily available to them. So Akasha Unleashed, the missing manual to you, and it's on Amazon. Thank you.
And, multi-dimensional living in this 3D body is our birthright.
Yes.
I truly believe that. So thank you so much, Debra. It's been a pleasure. And goodbye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, Debra.
Yes, thank you.
That was wonderful. I feel the pieces that really wanted to come through were the biofeedback.
Mm-hmm.
That was really important. And thank you for being so patient. I'm for some reason the internet went down in my segment of my house. So
okay. Things happen, right? We're doing something really powerful. So those other energies are just there kind of tweaking us a little.
Yeah. Okay.
So I asked you if you had a soul realignment, because with soul realignment, if somebody has already read for you and told you what your gift is, then Andrea, who's the creator, suggests that we not do it again because we can read the energy differently. You might get different results because different intentions come into play. So do you know about your divine gift through soul realignment?
Well, soul realignment, I've done it on myself.
Okay.
That was my own reading. And I also received that, the soul stories of I'm a vegan with a Palladian overlay, which was really interesting. And my, power centers are my third power, the third chakra, and then the fourth chakra. and then I have potential for an extra God spark at my fifth chakra, as I have taken on this mission, you know, just to spread DNA and on the planet. I feel that I'm a candidate again, or now, for that to start happening, because there will be teachings and you know, all that stuff.
So what was your gift that came through?
My gift was really working with DNA, and I believe like the power of choice from here.
See,
And then,
it's different then. That's why I ask.
okay, great, great, yeah.
Because I got different stuff and I didn't know if that's, you know, that variable that we get with intentions, or if maybe what you had was a different kind of reading. If it's not specifically soul realignment, then the information is going to be different.
Okay.
So it's more expansive, which is really cool, right? It's more
Yeah.
info. Because you already have that secondary God spark. I did check for that.
Okay, great.
And did something big happen about 2 years ago?
Something big happened about 2 years ago. Yes, I was I was deep into I was traveling with a Shipibo shaman for about 2.5 years, and he went to the dark side, and we had created this really beautiful community. I helped create. I ran all his ceremonies. I was his divine feminine in the room, and he started abusing women, and it broke my heart. Like, I'm gonna cry. It broke my. You know, we are only one choice away from living in grace or falling out of grace. Nobody, no master is above that. That's what I truly believe, and that was the lesson that I was meant to learn, is that to stay on the path, to be diligent about my light on the path and my soul's light on the path. And I am only one choice away from not being an angel. And so it was one of the most devastating things I have ever gone through. And I had to unhook from, you know, I did several dietas with him, with his maestra. You know, I was energetically linked to them for, you know, and for clearings, and you know, I was doing healings in rooms, and so yeah. Do you have anything more?
Yeah, well, one of the things we look for in soul realignment is we actually measure your soul vibration, the frequency. Mm-hmm. And I don't, did you do that in yours?
I did.
Okay, because I saw you had a leap from 5.5 to 5.9 about 2 years ago. That's huge. To do that much in one lifetime, that's a lot. Yeah. And 5.9, I mean, that's on the cusp of going into the next dimensional level. So that to me was like, oh, now I get why you got the DNA download that you did, because you were on that path and you were at the right place and ready for it. And yes. It's perfect, because we need that right now. We're stepping into that.
And Debra, the DNA stuff that I'm receiving is not just about DNA, but it's about the fabric geometry of everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm really starting to see the layers and the geometries that are completely creating us, and how we're manifesting our body with these geometries, and how the universe is manifesting itself. And it's layer upon layer upon layer of how everything is coming together. And yes. I'm getting parts now where I'm feeling it's almost like the universe is breathing together. And I'm starting to feel it like everywhere, and see it. And it's incredible. It's completely incredible. So yeah, I got that I was 5.9, almost moving into 6. And yeah, anything else that you'd like to share? This is so fascinating.
Yeah, the cool thing, what you just said reminded me of what I got in that meditation. It started out, it was like I was kind of running uphill, and there were these strips of, I don't know what, but it was like a charcoal gray, and they were layers of something. Oh, layers of reality, but they were illusion. What they were showing me is these are illusions, and as you're moving forward, those illusions are falling away. And it was like up, 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 up for quite a long ways until I'm out of breath and I'm going around this curve, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. It's not a straight line either. It's curved, so there's surprises. And then when all of that fell away, I came to an aperture, like on a camera that has that little twisty thing where it opens. And on the inside was pure white light. And so I climbed through the aperture, and then I was in that white everywhere environment. And then it turned into a liquid substance like milk. And I started sinking down into it. And this is where the DNA came in. As I'm sinking and the liquid is here and I'm about to have my nose go into this liquid, I had a mini panic attack because in one of my past lives, I was drowned on a dunking board. And probably was drowned more than once, but I had a fear of water all my life. And when it gets in my face, it freaks me out. And it's better because I've learned about the past. But this pointed out to me, it's not gone. It's still there, that kernel of the DNA that's not rewritten. And so that's when they went into that whole metaphor. But they also showed me EFT does the same thing. And I've used EFT to get rid of my fear of spiders. And so here is this little kernel that I need to take care of. And I could use EFT now that I'm aware of it to get rid of that fear of the water in my face, because I'm thinking as it's happening, you're in the Akasha, you're safe, there's nothing to be afraid of. And yet it was such a strong imprint on my soul DNA that I still had that reflex. That was huge, because how many other people had the same thing?
Yeah.
So it was interesting. EFT came at the same time.
Right. Well, let's do a little visualization and go into that DNA.
Oh, cool.
You want to go in?
Sure.
Let's go in. Okay. Just close your eyes. And just start to go in. Take some deep breaths. And just start to explore your DNA. Our DNA swirls together. Looks like little swirling ladders. You might see colors. You might see little molecules or chemicals. And somewhere in your DNA, you're going to find a spot that's dark, not connected with the other spots of your DNA. This is the spot that is holding this memory of drowning, of this lifetime. And I want you to go to that spot. Communicate with it and ask it what it needs in order to be fully released and expressed. And let me know if you hear any words or see any pictures.
Yeah, what I got, it kind of looks like a bruise. And when I reached out to touch it, it morphed into a cat, this dark, long-haired cat that rolled over on its back and said, "Rub my belly."
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. It's ready. It's ready. Great. Just go ahead and rub that little cat's belly. Let you know that you love it. that in this lifetime you're safe, you're living your soul's work, and you're safe. You can let that go now.
So as I did that, it morphed into a white cat with short hair with one green and one blue eye.
Beautiful.
It feels very light, the energy. Yeah, I can feel it dissipating. It's just moving off.
And so now we're going to go back to that DNA, and we're going to start visualizing gold light coming in. And you might even see, since you're a techie person, that there's like a little like computer chips or computer-like stuff, like reorganizing, coming together. Or you might see strands. And you might even see other colors coming in, like colors of the rainbow: red, green, blue, purple, yellow. Just let those colors flow into the DNA. Let it start to match the other DNA's light. That DNA repair. And you might even start to see some sacred geometry come in. I like to call it biogeometry. And you might see circles or squiggly lines, triangles, the Star of David, or Merkaba. Just know that these shapes are repairing the molecules and the fibers of your DNA to be truly connected with light.
This is cool. It's all coming in like it's being sucked into a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
So it's replacing the black hole with the beauty.
Truly, human beings are a black hole that are absorbing light. And we're going to reprogram that DNA, knowing that you're safe and that you're God. And you're God from the Most High. And this DNA is healed through time and space, on all timelines and all dimensions, through all stories.
Yeah, it's all sparkly and it's purring.
Wonderful.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're actually your color in your face and everything has even changed. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's
All
amazing.
right.
I love that you shared that process, because I would have never guessed that's what you were doing. That is really just fabulous. It's like doing a dance.
Yeah. And I have a lot of key codes that I can use, but I really have been allowing people to develop their own process, because we're innately divine and we have all the answers. So I can put the colors in, I know the shapes that make the molecules, but it's interesting now. I'm just allowing people to do it, and it's just happening for them, and it's really truly beautiful. And once they tap into the light of their DNA, those other strands just start forming. It's like the biofeedback again. So yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So did you look up your life lesson for this life?
I did not. Would you like to share that with me?
Yeah, because I got healing, which is like, oh yeah.
Yeah. My own healing, or other people's helping other people heal?
Well, there's choice, right? You get to decide what it means to you.
Okay.
It can be anything. It's just before you incarnated, your soul said, healing is what I'm going to work on this lifetime. and that's open to whatever you want to do with it. Or if you are finished with it, you can move on to another, because it's all about choice.
Yeah.
But I also got that your gift is divine love and healing. I don't know if you got that when you did that other reading. That's what it would be called in the context of soul realignment.
Mm-hmm. I did not, it was not put in that frame, but I, again, my second power center was 4. So, love. And, for me, this summit, part of like why I moved the summit back to 11/11 was because I started to feel that I was in the process of doing, right? Because it's a lot of work, and,
Yes.
talking with 21 people, like, all over the world and time zones, and that I started to get in the process of doing and not moving from my heart. And
Yeah.
I truly wanted to honor each person that was stepping forth so that we could have a connection. And that's just how I truly want to live, is from my heart. And so that makes perfect sense. And as soon as I feel like I'm moving too fast, or I'm moving from here, I feel completely out of alignment, and, course correcting. And
Yeah.
so that perfect sense. And then, did you get any future stuff?
I don't really do future, because they keep telling me the future's not written yet. We can give you probabilities,
Yes.
possibilities, but it could change depending on choices you make between now and then. What I did get that I wanted to share with you that is really important is that I always check for soul gender. And yours comes as male. So your soul is male, even though you're expressing as a female in this lifetime. And that's important to understand about yourself, because if you didn't already know that, you've probably noticed things and felt it, but didn't understand what it was.
Yes, I did know that about myself. And I have a gift of being in balance with masculine and feminine.
Yes.
I'm pure feminine, but I have a strong masculine side to me. And again, that logical thinking. I love, quantum mechanics,
Mhm.
physics, epigenetics. I love it. I crave it. But I also have this beautiful feminine flow with it as well. So yes, thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Let me see what else. Well, you said you were Palladian. I got that you were Mintonkan. I don't know if you've ever looked at that or not, but there's some element of that there.
Okay, I will look that up. I mean, I I feel like I've had many lives. I feel like I personally feel like I'm from the stars.
Yes,
I
most
you know,
of us are.
I but like most people seem to be grounded in their humanism, and me, I'm always in the stars. I'm always
You
I'm
know,
always thinking about galactic.
yeah. That's because you started out this lifetime already at a more awakened state, right? You were at a higher energy frequency to begin with than these other people who are just now starting to awaken. So most of them will at some point start to get that they really are star seeds. I've
Yes,
only met one earther in all the time I've been doing this.
really. That's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So in soul realignment, we look at it, it's called your planet of origination. And that's why we care, because when you were first created as a soul, that's where you started out. And so you have characteristics from that group, because that's where you started. And then all of us have gone on, and we've been in other places since then, and probably thousands of places. It's just right now, for whatever reason, most of us are collecting on Earth.
Mhm. I'm wondering if I picked up the Palladian overlay because of the. I mean, I'm here to help change this planet. I mean, there's
Mhm.
no doubt about it, and I know the Palladians are about change. What are the Montankins? Do you feel, what is their soul essence?
Well, Mintakan is a water planet. So for the Mintonkans, they have a bit of a problem with the density of the earth because it can almost be painful to them because they're used to less gravity and being in that water environment. I don't know, have you ever felt anything like that?
Worst. Speak in my life, ladies. Speak in my life. I have a very hard time being grounded. I love flow. Yes.
I have to look it up because I think you're the first Mintonkan I've actually ever encountered, and I don't remember the rest of the characteristics because there's a lot. So Mintaka is in the constellation of Orion, and so they will find themselves looking up at the sky at night because they're just kind of pulled to that. It's like a remembrance, an essence that draws them.
Yes.
So you feel that? And
Yes.
they had kind of a utopian civilization, and people didn't make negative choices. It was just really wonderful. So can you imagine going from that to Earth where we have all this war and negativity and hate? And that
Yeah.
has to be really, really difficult for them as a gentle, loving soul.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had, again, a period of time with drug addiction because I just could not make sense
Mm-hmm.
of everything. Just and again, when I was younger, I actually stopped talking from the ages of like 3 to 5 because I saw how the energy from a person's heart, their mind, and their mouth, none of it was matching up, and so I just stopped talking and started watching energy. Um, so I mean that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Well, they're such positive, upbeat souls that they end up being like cheerleaders and, going out there and uplifting other people. But at the same time, there is that contrast of feeling the density and the pain of Earth. So I can imagine that could have opened that door for you to find a way to numb that pain. And so
Yes.
that would be part of the reason that, that was just there, and you remember something very different. So you have to ask yourself, and I don't know the answer to this, but why would somebody with that background choose to come to Earth?
Mm-hmm.
There's something really powerful there. There's a purpose. There's a greater purpose and reason that, as I say, hasn't revealed itself yet to me. It may still in time, but you wonder. It's like I talked to this lady the other day, and she had this repeating pattern where this soul chased her through several lifetimes with this malicious, vindictive vendetta. Why? Why would a soul go off of its own path to do this? And it turns out they originally encountered each other in 49,000 and something BC on the planet Maldek. And this man, the soul that was after her, had been a leader on that planet. And they were a real aggressive, warring civilization, but very technologically advanced. And so they ended up blowing up their planet. He blamed her for that because she came with her positive energy from another place and tried to affect change. Do you feel a parallel here?
I do. And what's interesting is years ago, I had a group of beings come to me and tell me that part of why I was here and why humanity was here was to transmute the density here in this segment of the universe, and that when we had done that, because it had to be realized through material form, like it had to be transformed through our bodies, through our emotions, and when we did that, there was going to be like an unconditional love, like a ripple of frequency that was going to ripple out through all of the entire universe, through the fabric of everything. And that's part of what everybody is waiting for, what the angels are here for, why we're awakening is to experience this. So I know that's, I have a role to play in that.
Yes.
And
Well, a little bit more about Mintaka. It's no longer inhabitable. So right now they can't go back home. But it was water, but the sunlight came into the water. So for some Mintakans, dark water is very, I don't know, it bothers them because it's just, there's something about it that's not normal for them. It's very different. And it brings that up again for them, the memory of how it once was and how much better it was. So there's contrast. This is what's coming through for me, for you, is contrast, huge contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where that really plays, but it's like it's a huge element in your life. It's just a theme that keeps coming through.
Contrast. Now, would that contrast have something to do with like duality, or
I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
Because when I look at you, your energy, even though I know you're a male soul in a female body, it's kind of weird. It's not like I normally would see it. It's extremely balanced. And yet there are the two sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've also worked with people who their line of work is reorganization of the right and left hemispheres, and I've been told that my right and left hemispheres are really in alignment with each other, are really balanced, and a lot of people haven't really seen that before. It's very rare. So interesting.
And that's connected to the fact that you have ascended frequency-wise, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just part of your evolution. So
Yes.
your DNA is evolving and your brain is evolving, and it's all moving forward at it, an enhanced pace ahead of the curve.
Yes.
Because there aren't that many people on the earth today that are at that high a frequency. There are a few that are 6 and above, but very few.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. My first spontaneous DNA activation was over a year ago, where the Galactic Council came down, and it was spontaneous. And I just had a second spontaneous healing DNA activation a week ago. And instead of this time, the previous one was lights and geometries, like I was leading you through. The one that they were actually leading me through was taking the 12 strands of DNA, it like all coming out in like the portal of light being in the center of my palm, and they were lighting up like the fourth layer of my DNA. Most people have between 2 and 3, but they were actually starting to light up my 4, and it was all in gold. And kind of showing me how the portals of our light are working with like our Taurus body and the Merkaba, and then also the flower of life fabric as well. It was very deep and very intense, and had many layers to it.
That's so beautiful.
And I haven't really shared that with anybody, so thank you. That felt really good to share.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, I have to validate for you. Part of the reason that we're connecting is because you are opening me up to a larger perspective, because this isn't something I had ever thought about. And so it's part of my growth that you have now helped co-creating. So that's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Deborah. Like when I said earlier that you just exuberate love and vitality. I totally feel that you are living your divinity, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel it. I just feel like even though life isn't perfect, it's like it doesn't matter. It's just so wonderful to have this higher perspective. It is just so phenomenal.
Yeah, this life is a gift, and
It is.
a lot of like philosophy groups or theology groups or religions or whatever, like they want to ascend from this body, right? And that's not it. Like bringing the multidimensionality into the 3D body is really our birthright and our gift, so we can experience it. We can experience our divinity. And I mean, that's truly for me what I'm about.
Yeah.
And you're living it. You're living it
Yeah,
and seeing
I
it.
got not long ago. It's funny you say that, what is it with all these people who are in such a hurry to depart their body?
Yeah,
Because what happens, you get to the fifth dimension and then you want to come back and do it again because
right.
this is a rich experience.
Yeah.
So knock it off already. Stay here. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just about to get good. Like that's what I keep telling people. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's about to get really good. Like I know I'm coming back. Like I don't want to miss it. Like there's going to be some spectacular stuff happening. I'm seeing like we're building crystal palaces. Like that's kind of how it's coming down for me. Like literally like crystalline palaces for us to live in. And like it's about to get so good. Like why wouldn't you want to be here? You
Yeah. It's a wild ride.
know?
So I have to ask you one more question. Did you ever connect with Gia?
I did, and Gia has been really. She has a ranch,
Uh,
and they just had an unexpected birth at the ranch that we were communicating. I should reach out to her again and see if she has more time. But she seemed like she was really busy, um, and we didn't really have an opportunity to connect.
okay. Well, when the timing is right, I just want to encourage you to do that because Gia was instrumental in helping me to grow. After I did the soul realignment course and I got the information, but I hadn't internalized it. I didn't really understand how my gifts worked. And she was so generous. I was on the phone with her for like 2 hours one night and she explained to me how it worked and that like just opened up so much. She is phenomenal. So I'm forever indebted to her because she helped me to grow. But the reason I wanted you two to connect is because she is all about the crystalline grid and very much into sacred geometry, which those are things I don't really understand at this point. They may come from me later, I don't know, but the two of you would really have a lot to talk about in that respect.
Okay, I will make another attempt to at least just have a conversation with her,
Yeah,
even if she doesn't have time to participate in the summit. Okay, fantastic. All
awesome.
right, Deborah, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
we might bump into each other sometime.
I think we will.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye.